Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of our Cybersecurity Executive Brief. I'm Corey Wolf, Director of Offensive Security at Risk 360, and today is Wednesday, November 6th. We are all in the prime of planning season. I hope you had a great Halloween. Thanksgiving's coming up. I hope you have. I hope you're ready for the holiday season. I hope you're ready for 2025. I know that many of us right now are in planning season, thinking about budgets, initiatives, all this kind of fun stuff, right? I know we are here at Risk 360. I'm sure you are as well. I hope that's going well for you. I wish you nothing but the best in 2025. Something that I wanted to start off with today is, a few months back, there was the big Snowflake incident where companies like AT&T, Santander, Ticketmaster, a whole bunch of organizations, big organizations, had serious breaches of their data in Snowflake. Ultimately, this was not a vulnerability in Snowflake. It was more of a misconfiguration in the way that these organizations had these Snowflake instances stood up. So they did not have MFA on credentials to their Snowflake instance. They did not have any sort of network restrictions on their Snowflake instance. Snowflake actually has a pretty good document outlining how to secure your instance and security best practices, which were not followed in many cases. And so there was a big, a whole bunch of different breaches of, again, AT&T, Santander, Ticketmaster, a whole bunch of big organizations had their data exfiltrated from their Snowflake instance because the accounts had credentials that were discovered through various campaigns. MFA was not enabled on the Snowflake instance, and network restrictions were not in place on the Snowflake instances. The threat actor responsible for this has come forward in a couple of different ways. One of those big ways was through a Telegram channel. If you don't follow 404 Media, I highly suggest you follow them. They do a very good job when it comes to cybersecurity topics and trends and news. They're a bunch of writers from, I think, Wired and Vice. But anyways, very good. Point is that the threat actor responsible for the Snowflake incidents had spoken to, I believe, Joseph Cox at 404 maybe a month ago in Telegram, and basically admitted to being the perpetrator of these incidents. That gentleman has been arrested. So it's he's a Canadian man that was arrested Monday at request of U.S. authorities, and so he has been identified and he has been arrested. He simply does not have the money to pay for a lawyer. So I don't know if he spent it or what happened. But at the end of the day, this threat actor obtained all these credentials, usernames and passwords for Snowflake through info stealers. So info stealers are just, I don't, they've always been around, but probably within the past year, maybe 2 years, info stealers have started to just really take off. And there's a couple reasons for that. But one of the big reasons is that an info stealer is literally just going to read files, right? And so it's an easier way to not alert defenders or endpoint detection systems, because it's literally just a piece of software sitting on a computer somewhere on an endpoint somewhere, just reading files, right? So it's searching the OS for text files that might have passwords in them. It's looking at browser cookies for session tokens. It could be possibly doing key logging and that kind of thing. But the point is that it's a lot easier to get this info stealer on a device and just let it run and collect data and phone that data home, as opposed to, say, like a beacon or an actual remote access Trojan or something like that. The remote access Trojan has to create processes, has to mess with memory, it has to do all this kind of crazy stuff that EDR is very good at picking up. So info stealers are a logical next step because it's just a lot easier to bypass or just kind of fly under the radar. And so this is where this threat actor, I'm not even going to try and say this. I'm not sure how to say it. Uh, I'm not really sure. But this threat actor is the one that are basically obtained a whole bunch of usernames and passwords for Snowflake through info stealers, and just went down the line, started logging in, built some automated tooling to exfiltrate the data from these Snowflake instances, and went through. Again, no MFA on these accounts. Uh, Not very good passwords for the most part. No network restrictions on Snowflake instance. So this, I believe he's 17 or he's young. I can't remember how old he is, but basically, this teenager was able to just wreck a whole bunch of big companies, exfiltrate a whole lot of data. I believe he was successful in one instance where AT&T paid him $370,000 to delete the data, but I'm not sure. I'm not really sure of any other payouts that he received. So it's the interesting thing about this is that it's a big uptick in Western countries of having threat actors, young threat actors, really go after big corporate entities and be able to infiltrate these entities. The MGM attack was carried out. Well, it was a whole bunch of stuff, but the initial attack was carried out by an organization tracked as Scattered Spider, which I believe the threat actor was a part of. But the MGM attack was carried out by Scattered Spider, which is a bunch of teenage kids that phoned up MGM support, social engineered their way into resetting a password, and boom, gained access to MGM. And I believe they sold it off to Alfie Black Hat to ransom MGM. But this is something that we haven't really seen too much in recent years, but we're starting to see a big uptick in it. A lot of these young threat actors, are coming from a online community known as the Comm. So Krebs has a pretty good write up on this from 2024. The Comm is you could think of when you were younger, you had different communities you were a part of. This is the same thing, but it's primarily made up of English speaking, uh, and it's, as Krebs refers to it, native English speaking hackers in the United States and Britain, teaming up to do all kinds of nefarious things. MGM being the prime example there. But this is a whole community of young adults and teenagers basically trying to one up each other with different attacks. Uh, Very 1990s hacker manifesto. Well, not really. The com is dark. So this is where they started. If you've heard of swatting, this is where someone calls the local police in your area, says so and so is threatening to, kill me, whatever it might be, and the SWAT team ends up going to their house, even though that person isn't really doing anything. But uh, the com is filled with all kinds of stuff like that, where they're really just doing. Here you go. Often in ways, and as often as they extort victim companies for financial gain, members of the com are trying to wrest stolen money from their cyber criminal rivals, often in ways that spill over into physical violence in the real world. So they'll literally pay someone to go to that person's house and shake them down, or they'll SWAT them. They'll call the police, say this person's doing XYZ, and then the SWAT team comes, right? So pretty rough crew, but we're starting to see lots of threat actors come out of the this community, and this particular threat actor who is responsible for the Snowflake incidents is part of the Comm community. I suggest you check it out. It's an interesting read to kind of see how things are going, how threat actors are evolving, and the different types of ways that they come together. But they caught him. He is currently in custody. I'm curious to see how it all works out. Again, he is a Canadian citizen. I believe he'll face trial in Canada as opposed to the United States. But I'm sure that we'll see more from this. Doesn't have enough money to pay a lawyer. So what does that tell you? I wonder if he got the 300. So AT&T paid $370,000. I don't know the specifics of that transaction, but I wonder how much he actually got after, because if it was Bitcoin or something like that, fees and all kinds of different things that happen. Anyways, going down a rabbit hole, he doesn't have enough money to pay for a lawyer, and operational security is difficult. Although he came out and just started talking to people. So, I mean, to be young, I guess. To be young. In other news, Google releases a new 0-day that was discovered by AI. So, where are we here? Here we go. Google has discovered its first real-world vulnerability using artificial intelligence agent The company researchers are designing expressly for this purpose. So they've developed a model that is specifically going out and looking for vulnerabilities in software. In this case, they found a 0 day in the popular SQLite database software. They reported to the SQLite developers. It was fixed, but they did discover this. Their Big Sleep, right? Yeah, here we go. Big Sleep large language model. It's not the first of its kind, but maybe it's the first of its kind for Google. But their Big Sleep large language model identified a 0 day vulnerability. So, Google's saying that this is excellent for, defending forward, threat hunting, all that kind of stuff, and that's what they're working towards. And I completely agree that this is a good defensive and proactive thing that, at some point we'll be able to use AI to proactively discover vulnerabilities in our networks, in our cloud, and etc. But this is a big step forward. This is the first one that Google identified. If you read the headlines, it's a little deceiving. This one's not too bad from dark reading, but some of them say, Google, first to find, 0 day through AI. That's not true. We see, yeah, so even Google says, we believe this is the first public example of an AI agent finding a previously unknown exploitable memory safety issue in widely used real world software. So they were very specific in what their first was. We won't, whatever, right? We won't go down that road. But it's not the first time an LLM has identified software vulnerabilities. In fact, I think it was this year, August sometime. Yep. An LLM model called Atlantis from a group of AI experts called Team Atlanta discovered 6 0 day flaws in SQLite and even autonomously identified and patched one of them during the AI Cyber Challenge, which was in August. So, some good uses here for AI. We're doing, not just to write your LinkedIn posts and use instead of Google. Real work is being done on using it to identify vulnerabilities in software. It will eventually, I believe, start to become something where it's used in a proactive manner to find vulnerabilities. The one caveat to this is that you do need access to the software. So the way that they found this vulnerability was basically by the LLM performing analysis on the software, along with what's known as fuzzing. So basically, just throwing a whole bunch of random characters in different fields and seeing what happens. But this was discovered through basically software analysis. And so the AIs are getting better and better. Skynet is here. It is fully upon us and only getting better. So that's good news. It's good to hear and see proactive ways that we can use AI in security. Just wanted to wrap up with some suggested reading here. If you have not had a chance to read this report from Sophos, this is a very well done analysis on Chinese APTs, how they kind of work their way through botnets and different networks, and how they compromise IoT devices. And so this write-up, if you ever want to know what good threat hunting or good forensic analysis looks like, rather, this is a must read. And the good thing about this is that they don't necessarily get in the weeds from a technical perspective. It's very, it's high level enough that you don't need to be extremely technical to understand what's going on, but it's low level enough that it starts to give you a little bit more information. So Sophos did release this last week, I think, but I wanted to make sure that I called it out. And if you have a chance, make sure you read it. Again, it's very well done report. That's how forensic analysis and threat hunting and that kind of thing should work. The timeline, the indicators of compromise, the TTPs, everything. It's a very well done report, and I highly suggest that you check it out. So, with that, that is it for today, Wednesday, November 6th. As always, I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you have an awesome weekend. And guess what? We'll see you here again next Wednesday. Speak soon.